Hi guys, so welcome to my podcast, and this is the very first episode. And for a long time, I wasn't sure whether I should continue doing this via my Instagram profile or should I actually go and put it online like this. So on my profile, I was getting some questions about conducting online lessons, how it all works, and whether you should, choose it or not. And I would, do some short written answer, but I was not really um, satisfied with the final result. So this time I actually decided I'm gonna take time and just talk about it and cover some basic things, especially in this episode. And as time goes, we will cover more things about online lessons in general, and what should you look in an online lesson, and what do you pay attention to, and things like those. But basically, I do believe that it could be useful because a lot of people don't necessarily realize um, whether there is any difference between online lesson and regular lesson, and what those differences are, and how you actually um, do you actually get the same knowledge from both of those, or do you have to like suffer and get less from an online lesson. And there are some interesting things that I didn't think about when I started working online, but more and more people, especially the older group of people, were particularly curious about how much, like, how, you know, what is the quality of those lessons if you actually don't sit in a classroom and just listen to a teacher and raise your hand and do everything else. And then I realized that they don't really understand some quite basic things about the environment of an online lesson. And I don't mean just the platforms you use and how you send the homework and everything else. No, I actually mean that you nowadays can actually raise hand in different platforms like Google Classroom or even Zoom meetings. So it's not so different, but I think that younger people are quite familiar with it because of the COVID and everything else. But the older people have trouble, sometimes have trouble comprehending the whole, idea of that, which is kind of normal because the only way of learning that they experienced was, at school and while sitting in a classroom and being in person. So this is kind of like they're usually very skeptical towards it. So that's one of the reasons why I started writing, those interesting questions that every now and then would pop up and just give the answers so that students actually have all the information they need before they actually, start learning and, jump into that whole world of e-learning. Sorry. So today I would like to talk about the basic um, term of online learning and online lessons. So there is a lot of uh, things to cover here, but I wouldn't go too much into depth. I would like to say that one. I would like to state one very obvious thing, and that is that online lessons are basically lessons like any other, and the only difference is that they are conducted online via the internet. So you can watch online lessons on your computer, on your phone, anywhere, on the bus or in the car or wherever you are. So the only requirement is that you have the internet, and that's it. So today, because I teach English, we're going to talk about English online lessons. And the first thing, I kind of already touched that, so that was a good introduction. The first thing that I would like to do is talk about what you actually need um, to have an online lesson. So, in order to have an online lesson, you basically need a computer, a phone, or any other device that has an access to the internet. So it doesn't have to be, I don't know, how good of an equipment. You just need a computer or a phone with you, and that's it. And of course, an internet, because otherwise you won't be able to access the program or the lesson or whatever in whichever way you're learning. So why do we need, I mean, how we actually do that, why we need internet? Because um, online lessons, um, when it comes to online lessons, you kind of you have two options basically. So you can have a course, you can pay for a course that you're going to listen to when you want and then learn that way. But typical lessons are the one where you find a tutor, you pay, and then you book a lesson and go to some platform where you're going to connect with a teacher, log in, and then you will see the teacher and you will talk and have a lesson. So that's the reason why we need internet, because you need to be able to approach one of uh, different programs that you chose with your teacher to actually be able to talk with her or him and to use the material that he or she sent to you. So it can differ a bit, especially if you opted for or only speaking lessons. Because if you wanted to have only speaking lessons, then you don't have that much of material happening. But if you're having the regular lessons, then you will probably need some softwares that can open and edit and save documents, like I don't know, Word or just Google Docs, depending on whether you're going to be offline or online. So, yeah, I would say that as far as the programs go that you would need some platform where you can log in and speak to the teacher. And some of the programs that I use are actually Skype or Google Meet. I used Zoom once or twice, but I don't know. I guess I got used to Skype so much that I didn't stick with Zoom. Though it's really good, but you can choose. There are a lot of different options. Um, and if you're not so much in the whole technology world, maybe you should, just leave it to a teacher to check which one they would like to use with you, because they're basically all the same. There are some, nuances that can make a difference, but not so much for you as much for the teacher. But basically, what you need is, so number one, internet, and number two, a platform where you're going to talk with the teacher. And whichever you choose, most of them are free. Google Meet and Skype, they're both free. Zoom can be paid, but you're not the one that's paying it. The teacher is. So again, for you, it's free. And like I said, they're all really good. It's all about the preferences and the teacher's choice. So the third thing that I mentioned is some program that you're going to use for opening the documents, editing and saving and everything else. So usually people use, I mean, teachers such as me, we use Google Drive or eventually Cloud, or eventually Cloud. I prefer Google Drive because I don't know, I'm just more prone to Google things. But it's like it doesn't really matter that much, but it's more about just having a platform where you're going to save all the material that you get from the teacher. So with Google Drive, you can put your homeworks there, you can put the material there, maybe handouts, depending what your teacher is giving you, and then you can have it all in one place. And the very important thing when it comes to using Google Drive is that it's not connected to your computer that much. It's connected to your account. So, regardless where you are, you can approach the material just by signing in, and that's it. So, that's a good thing with those online storage forms where you just don't need to carry one computer with you. You can just, save the material on that one thing and approach it wherever you are. And then, of course, you need something where you're going to open all of it. Usually, if those are PDF files, you're going to need a PDF reader. And if it's Word documents, you can use, well, the regular Word program, Microsoft Word, or you can just go and use the Google Docs, which is like an internet version of Word documents. And again, you can save it automatically to your Google Drive because they're usually connected. So that's it as far as the softwares goes. So they're all kind of connected mutually, and they all do the same thing. So it's not so much about what you're going to choose, um, which one you're going to choose, because eventually they all do the same thing. And if you're not so much into those technological um, waters and changes and everything else, you can pick any of those. They're basically all doing the same thing. You just have to decide what you want to do, everything online, including saving materials, or you would like to do half half. But again, if I have to choose, I would always go with the online storage as well, and using online readers of documents, just for the sake of saving them much much easier. So that's it as far as the programs go. Another thing that you're going to need, and now of course this is optional, it's not a must, is a headphones and a microphone. Microphone is not so necessary because nowadays computers and laptops and phones have really good microphones, so you will be able to have a conversation and a lesson without a microphone as a separate gadget. But I would always opt for the headphones because I think that it's much better for you if you can hear the teacher clearer. And of course, that clear part is depending on the equipment that the teacher is using. But also, if you're in a loud environment or something, it's much better to use headphones, and in that sense to be focused only on your teacher, and that's it. Um, and again, you have some sort of privacy when it comes to all of it, because not everybody needs to listen um, what you're learning or listening to. And in that sense, you can just like do it all by yourself and really immerse yourself into the lesson. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is how you actually schedule a lesson. So now this is a bit of a tricky question, because it all depends how you found your tutor. So you have a teaching platforms, and then you have like NADs, right? So if you chose a teaching platform, there is a really huge chance that you will have a lesson on that platform, because the platform usually kind of takes some sort of you know charge some sort of fees or something like that. So you book a lesson there, and then you have it on that platform, and all the payment goes um, through the platform. So if you chose your tutor on some sort of platform like, I don't know, a native camp or Preply or um, I don't know, there's so many of those, Engu or things like those, um, then you will be able to find on your teacher's profile time slots, and then you have a chance to pick one of those, um, free like time boxes, and book your lesson uh, at that time. However, if you didn't choose any online teaching platform to find your tutor, and you found him or her separately, then the best thing to do it is just to send a message to the tutor and to make an agreement when it works best for you and for the tutor himself or herself. So there is one small difference between scheduling a lesson over a platform or in person, or at least via text. And that is that the difference is in the payment method. So when it comes to the platforms, you have to pay in advance. And as far as contacting the teacher directly, you can, discuss the whole scheduling rules and what are you going to pay the whole lesson in advance, whether he or she sells lesson packages, and how the whole thing works, or how at least what is the policy that the tutor or the teacher has. So I don't think there is right or wrong choice when it comes to this. It all depends on your, uh, wishes and needs. Basically, some people do believe that the platforms are more secure way, because you usually have to confirm the lesson before your money, is being transferred to tutor. So you have some sort of like safety feeling in that process. Then again, me as a tutor, I'm not a fan of those platforms because they take quite big fees, and I'm always up for a in-person method. But like I said, it's all about your own preferences. So the next question that naturally arises is, how do you find an online teacher? And we already mentioned that in the previous section that you have teaching platforms. But other than those, um, there are some really easy ways to find a teacher, especially nowadays when we're in this whole technological time, and all those different things are happening when it comes to the e-learning and everything else. So other than the websites created particularly for that purpose, such as Native Camp or Preply or I don't know, Engu, you can also find tutors who offer their service on different social medias, or they just post an ad and things like those. Um, if you're not sure where to start, you can just open any social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, not so much, I think, but perhaps you can even go and try there and just literally type English lessons, and you will, find so many different hashtags that include those two words, and you choose any of those, and you will probably stumble upon some teacher who offers the lesson. And if you're not such a huge fan of social media, or you don't have the profile on any of those, you can go to the, Google, and just type online lessons, or online English lessons tutor, online English tutor, or any of those combinations. Press enter, and you're going to have so many different options where you can choose, um, the perfect option for you based on the money and the time and the area where teacher, teaches, and how he teaches or how she teaches and everything else. So it's quite easy. Just go online and you won't have trouble finding it. So another thing that I would like to discuss within this episode is that is one problem that happens every now and then, and that is that someone goes and chooses the teacher, and then after 2 3 lessons, he or she realizes that um, they don't like the teacher they chose. So, what happens then? What happens if I realize I don't like the teacher that I chose previously? Well, that can be fixed. That can be fixed up to a certain point, depending on the teacher. And I think the easiest way is that most teachers nowadays offer a trial lesson. So a trial lesson is usually shorter than a regular lesson. It's usually half of the time, so like 30 minutes, or 45 if it's an hour and a half lesson. And it's cheaper, or some, teachers offer completely free for the first lesson, where you actually um, come to the lesson and talk about your needs and your wishes and your goals, and then the teacher talks about his or her teaching methods, and then you proceed to like create a plan of strategy of learning and how you will reach those goals together. So I think that it's a good thing if a teacher offers that, because it also helps the teacher to estimate your level, and um, to know, like, to kind of detect which like a holes in knowledge you have, and then to create a plan that is very much customized for you. Okay, so it's not just about you saying, okay, so I wanna, I don't know, pass FC exam um, in like 6 months. It's also about teacher, seeing and kind of analyzing which particular approach they will have to use for you to gain that goal within that period of time. And then again, um, they kind of use it to see whether your goals are realistical. So if you are on level B2 and you want to take the exam C1 within like 6 months, you will either have to work so much and have so many lessons, or that goal is not very realistic. I mean, even if you had like 3, 4 lessons per week, it's still not so realistical. So you have to um, realistic. Sorry. So you have to really, you have to be smart about your goals. So you have to take your abilities and your levels and your skills into consideration, and how much time you have to kind of separate just for doing that and all the other stuff. And usually people don't do that. They just like know what they want and they don't pay that much attention to um they don't pay that much attention to those little things that are kind of necessary for you to really reach that goal. And that's why teachers use trial lessons to see which level you are, to kind of analyze how much time you will need, and to really create a plan that's going to work. So it's not, not all students can have those basic like textbooks lesson plans. So if someone is good at grammar but not so good at vocabulary, then you're not going to practice as much grammar as you can usually find in textbooks. And um, then that teacher is going to use some other material or force a bit more of vocabulary lessons, or reading materials so that you can expand your vocabulary and etc. So yeah, I would say that those trial lessons are really, really good. And when the teacher is telling you about it and he's telling you about his approach and how he usually does that, and when he's detecting the problems that you have and telling you his solutions for those problems, or how would he solve those problems, I think that, from his or her presentation, you can kind of get a sense whether you would like to work with that teacher or not. And then some teachers also go to some quick exercises to just, determine the level that you're at. And during that process, you can see how he or she explains or reacts to some things, or just, talk about the lecture itself. So the material itself. So I think that, trial lesson is quite a good way to find out whether that teacher, um, could be a good option for you or not. So it's also very important to remember that it doesn't necessarily, so if you don't like some teacher during that trial lesson, it doesn't necessarily mean that that teacher is not good for you. I mean, not like is kind of a strong word. So if you're not sure about it, it doesn't mean that that teacher is not right for you. Why? Because the trial lesson is not a real lesson. That's a very important thing to remember. So trial lesson is not a real lesson. Trial lesson is something that you use to see whether you would like to work with that person, what that person offers to you, and whether that person can solve, your problems or not. And again, for the teacher to see what you want, whether he can help you doing that or she can help you doing that or not. But the lesson itself usually doesn't happen during the trial lesson. So I think that people shouldn't approach the whole "I don't like it" thing so seriously. I mean, we all realize that we made a mistake. We all change. We all um, kind of reach a new perspective, or just gain some new. information about the teacher or the lessons or whatever. And if you don't like the teacher that you chose, you can always, switch to another teacher, find a new one, and that's it. Just send a message. I'm sorry. Um, I would, I appreciate what you're doing. And, I don't know, show some gratefulness or something like that. But eventually just inform the teacher that you're not going to continue with that and transfer to a new one. And if you're on a teaching platform, then again, there are some options where you can just transfer your money from one tutor to another, or if you can't find that option, you can always write um, to the customer service, and they're going to help you to do that. So it's not the end of the world if you don't like the teacher that you chose. Okay, so even if you taught during the trial lesson that you like it, that doesn't mean that you have to like it, to the end of your life, or that your wishes can change, or that you can realize that um, it's just not something you thought it's going to be, and that's okay. Um, but you should do your part of the work, which is basically going and informing yourself about the teaching method, so the methodology that the teacher is using, and then again, um, perhaps trying to find some reviews about the teacher, or just seeing the portfolio that he or she has, whether it's on social media or a website or any sort of or any other type of portfolio that that teacher chose to have. So basically, that's it when it comes to the whole online teaching things. One more thing that I would like to cover today is not so much about the tutors or teachers themselves or the platforms. It's actually about what can I do after I finish a certain course, or I take classes with a certain teacher. So, do I have any proof of knowledge? Or, as my students would usually ask, so do I get any certificate in the end? Well, that's not an easy question to answer. Why? Because some teachers offer certificate at the end of the whole course. Some teachers offer the certificate at the end of each level. Some teachers even like take different aspects of a lesson, different areas of lesson, like vocabulary, grammar, speaking, or I don't know what, and then proceed to like give you a certification for each one of those. And then again, there is a group of teachers that don't give any certificates at all. So I actually, after recent time, wasn't giving any certificates because was just giving, um, I was just giving like sort of like general English lessons, or I was preparing for the exams or things like those. So there was no need for my students to get a certificate from me. So I think it depends on the teacher, uh, whether he works for some school or he has his own school, or whether it's a course that you pay. So usually, if you pay for a course, you go to a language school, you will get a certificate. But if it's online tutor, who's particularly those ones who just started their own business or just started teaching, you probably won't get a certificate. So it's not so common for online tutors or teachers to give a certificate. It's more of a thing um, when it comes to language schools or online courses and things like those. So where you actually have like the whole um, like one whole kind of like a one whole area covered. Let's go with that. And of course, with the schools, you just have it because, well, they usually go level by level. So after each level, they give you a certificate to know that you passed that level, that you can move on. Now, the question is whether you really care about that certificate or not. That's entirely up to you. I'm always more for knowledge than any like proof of knowledge, especially nowadays because you have so many different ways where you can just go and like take an exam without even going to a language school. So for me, um, it's not so much about getting the certificate itself, because if you want to use that proof of knowledge for something like studying abroad or finding a job abroad, something like that, you will usually have some of the standardized exams, like I don't know, like TOEFL or Cambridge exams, or any of those, or any of the like standard American exams if it comes to schooling abroad, like SATs or I don't know, ACTs or whatever they have. So, if your goal is to show someone that that's your knowledge, then getting a certificate out of the language school, it's not going to help you that much. You will still have to go and get like a proper certification, like I know Cambridge certificate of advanced English or proficiency, or first English certificate, or whatever it is, or whatever that is, and whatever your needs are. But so I wouldn't focus so much on the certificates when it comes to teachers and schools, because I think it's more important for you to actually go and um, gain knowledge so that you can go and pass like the proper, exam, one of the exams that I just stated. And those exams will allow you to go, wherever you want. Well, the language school certificates usually, you have to check where they're approved, where they're not. Usually they're not approved abroad. So, just focus on knowledge, find a tutor that can help you reach your goals and that can really help you improve your language skill, and help you improve yourself as well. And, the proof of knowledge is going to come in whichever way you decide to. But it's not about that. It's about really, it's really about the knowledge, because no one's going to, well, yeah, actually, people will ask you for certificates, but it's more important how confident you're in your knowledge, how much of knowledge you have, how precise that knowledge is, and all those things, than just to have a paper that you can like wave around and show people and brag about it. So yeah, if you really want a certificate, it's okay. There are some people who kind of feel fulfilled with all those, with like a physical proof of achievement. So if that's you, then go ahead, find a school or a tutor or a teacher that can, get you one, actually give you one, not get you one. But like I said, I think it's way more important to just go and like really focus on learning without that, without chasing that paper um, as a final goal. Let's go with that. So basically, I think that's all when it comes to online lessons 101, let's call them that way. We covered most important things when it comes to entering the world of online learning, especially online language learning. Um, And I think, I hope that it answered some of your questions, and that you will feel at least a bit less confused or scared or anxious, to really dive into it and like use all the chances you have, because there are so many options nowadays, and you really can get the most out of it. Uh, because there are so many teachers who teach in so many different ways, and I think it's basically impossible not to find one that's really for you. Even when it comes to the prices, there are so many different ranges, from like really um, you know um, low our price to some higher. So I think everyone can find something, and I really think that if you're interested into learning a new language, if you're interested into learning a new language, I think you should really go and give it a try. So, if you have any questions about how to find the tutor, or what would my recommendations be for some platforms or any of those, or of course, if you're interested into taking online lessons with me, feel free to send me a message. You can find my Instagram profile below, and as well as my email, and you can just send a message on both of those. If again you found this very useful, or at least useful, feel free to follow my profile, uh, and send me any questions you have, or any topics you would like me to cover in the future. And that's it. Have a lovely day, and I can't wait for the next episode.